The King's Avatar, Chapter 1303 Happy's Cleric. Audio source, whooshworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1303, Happy's Cleric. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. The group arena eventually ended in Samsara's favor, with the individual rounds resulting in a 3-2, a 10-0 was now entirely impossible. This meant that neither Happy nor Samsara fans had a good slogan to chant. They had always found 10-0 to be the smoothest of slogans. Having caught up after winning the group arena, Samsara's morale had been boosted greatly. Their fans were also much more lively. As for Happy, they were a little disappointed that they hadn't managed to claim victory in the group arena, but Tang Rou's performance had far exceeded their expectations. They didn't seem too worried about losing 2 points, but Happy's players were feeling far more conflicted. They could feel the pressure from Samsara. There was a rather long break between the individual rounds and the team competition. The players of the two teams were gathered in their own groups, discussing strategies for the team competition. Technically, teams were allowed to return to their prep rooms during this time, but most teams found it troublesome, so they usually wouldn't run back to their prep rooms. For the individual rounds, both sides have losses and wins. How this match will go is truly hard to predict. What do you think? Advisor Lee. Quote, during the break, apart from ads, the live broadcast could only have the commentators kill time. Indeed, it's hard to predict. Lee Yibo solemnly agreed with this judgment. On paper, Samsara's lineup is stronger, but Happy has the home advantage. Then what do you think will be the deciding factor? Pan Lin asked. Lee Yibo felt pained. This was exactly the kind of precise prediction he wanted to avoid, but he knew that if he avoided all questions like this, he would be worthless as a special guest. Thus, most times, even if he was hesitant, he had to harden his heart and give them something. I think it will depend on the healers. Happy's healer is their weakness. This isn't a secret anymore. In the past, many teams have tried to capitalize on this weakness, but the only team to have succeeded so far is 301. We can see that even though Happy's healer isn't the best, without him, Happy's team still cannot operate at its peak and they will still lose. In this round, I think Samsara's focus point will still be Happy's healer. Will they have their assassin use life-risking strike? Pan Lin wondered. Possibly. Lee Yibo contemplated. One-hit KO, a powerful offensive, or like thunderclap, using strategy to pressure them. I think all these are equally possible. It depends on Samsara's choice. Comparatively, I'm actually more interested in how Happy is going to use their cleric in this match against Samsara. Many of the strategies they plan around this weakness of theirs are very interesting, Pan Lin commented. Hey, Lee Yibo chuckled. A significant weakness in their formation, but Happy has never gone to find a way to patch it up. With their current record, they could easily find a better cleric player during the winter transfer window. However, Happy doesn't seem to have any intentions to do so. Sometimes I feel like Happy's cleric might seem like a flaw to us, but in Happy's designs, he's a trap, one to counter their opponent's strategies. Pan Lin was stunned by Lee Yibo's analysis. Your view on this is truly brilliant. With this weakness, Happy can more or less predict what the opponent is going to target. Then, with a cunning and experienced veteran tactician like Yi Xiu, they might have long since calculated for what strategies their opponents will use, Lee Yibo said. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Pan Lin exclaimed even as he felt a little strange at this behavior. It had been a while since this Lee Yibo had made such bold predictions about another team's tactics. So how are they planning on dealing with Samsara this round? Like you, I too am very curious. Finishing his speech, Li Yibo gave a sigh of relief. He was rather direct. Either he didn't speak at all, or he analyzed everything comprehensively if he did. Pan Lin had already agreed with his views and began to delve deeper into discussing it. The two killed time like it was a talk show and continued to discuss until the team competition was due to start. Happy, Yishu, Fang Rui, Su Mucheng, Qiao Yivan, and Wenyi, 6th player Tang Rou. Samsara, Zhou Zekai, Jiang Botao, Sun Xiang, Lu Boyuan, Fang Minghua, 6th player Wu Qi. With the formations revealed, the two began their commentary on the lineups. Advisor Li, I've realized that these two teams share a point of similarity today. Pan Lin noted. Oh, these two teams haven't made any arrangements in accordance to their opponent. They've both chosen to use their most frequent lineups in this match. Pan Lin explained. Indeed, the two teams are facing this match with a normal attitude. They didn't place importance on this match like the outside world did and are treating it like any of the other 37 matches, Li Yibo determined. Yes, but this match is still amazing nonetheless. The players have performed unexpectedly well, thus leading the high performance of the match, Li Yibo said. After a few exchanged sentences, the players had finished their greetings and entered their booths. The team competition was ready to start. The projection started to show the characters of each team, first the away team, and then the home team. Each side had one on stage, switching positions, and the screen began showing the data for each character. When Samsara's One Autumn Leaf and Happy's Dancing Rain appeared simultaneously, the atmosphere suddenly changed. Many of the Glory fans at Sea Ocean Stadium were past excellent era supporters. One Autumn Leaf and Dancing Rain were two characters with 6 years of history together and harboring far too many of their hopes and dreams. Today, they were once again side by side, but not as best partners anymore, but as opponents. This feeling was heart-rending for the excellent era fans, who had gotten so used to their partnership. In that moment, the applause in the stadium was a little dry. It was just good that the character introductions wouldn't last too long. After these two new characters appeared, then, eventually, it got to the healers of the two teams. Samsara, Laughing Song. Happy, Little Cold Hands. Huh? Someone immediately realized something was wrong when Little Cold Hands appeared. That's Little Cold Hands. Someone called out in surprise. The equipment and style was completely different from the Little Cold Hands that they had seen for half a season. The commentator Pan Lin and guest Li Yibo also noticed this situation. Little Cold Hands' equipment seems to have changed. Pan Lin noted. Li Yibo nodded, already looking to the data displayed on the screen. WuxaWorldAudio.com. The moment he saw it, he sucked in a breath. 1810 intelligence. Li Yibo blinked. Yes, he wasn't hallucinating. Among Little Cold Hands' 4 stats, the intelligence was 1810. 1810. Hearing this data, Pan Lin was struck dumb. To do his job, he naturally had to have a good knowledge of Glory. He naturally wouldn't be expected or able to remember what the stats of all the pro accounts shows, but some rather outstanding stats he knew like the back of his hand. No way. Tyranny's Zhang Xinji's immovable rock only has 1570 intelligence. Pan Lin looked at Li Yibo in disbelief and hurriedly went to check Little Cold Hands' data himself. That's right, the intelligence really was 1810. By then, Li Yibo's attention had shifted. A full set of silver equipment. Li Yibo sucked in another breath, a pain feeling rising in his heart. Fuck, in the end he still got face-slapped by Happy. He had only just said that they weren't at all focused on strengthening their cleric. purposefully creating openings to use as bait, yet in the blink of an eye, they might have not switched players, but they had strengthened their cleric to its limits. This intelligence was 240 points above the Alliance's number 1 cleric. Wasn't that a little overdoing it? Li Yibo's mind drifted a little, but Pan Lin continued looking and noticed something else. These 4 stats. Don't they look a little off, Advisor Li? Pan Lin called. Li Yibo returned to the present and hurriedly took a look. This? Li Yibo's foundations were very solid, so he understood, looking at Little Cold Hand's final 4 stats. They're pushing intelligence to the limit, no wonder it's so high. Li Yibo commented. Nowadays, are there still people who would do this? Pan Lin said, confused. No. Li Yibo shook his head with certainty. In order to maximize a player's combat potential, balance was necessary. It was more common to see this push for intelligence in the online game. These clerics had immense healing ability which would reduce the difficulty of the dungeon run. However, the pro scene was pure PvP. It was good to have powerful healing, but one must consider the other abilities of the healer. The stat increases the system gave upon leveling up were the same for everyone, so no one would get more or less than anyone else. Thus, the eventual 4 stats of the character would be adjusted by the equipment. The stats on equipment were limited though, so you had to lose some to gain some. Intelligence was the primary focus, but that didn't mean you should sacrifice everything for it. However, that's exactly what Little Cold Hands had done. Then, looking closely, the crit. This is entirely a PvE cleric. Li Yibo couldn't help but yell. His ice and dark resistance is pretty high. Pan Lin said. High counter control, but the other spirit-based stats are only so-so. They didn't seem to have pushed for them, Li Yibo noted. The cleric class growth was mainly in the spirit stat, then the intelligence stat. Intelligence, crit, they're pushing these 2 to the limit. In terms of purely healing power, this is probably Glory's number 1 cleric, Li Yibo decided. No. Quote, just as he had made his judgment, Li Yibo suddenly rejected it. It's better to say, looking at just the amount healed by a single skill, this is definitely the number 1 cleric. However, his cast speed isn't outstanding, so if we consider cast time, cooldowns, etc., then it's really hard to say how his heal per second is. What is Happy trying to do, making a cleric like this? Pan Lin said in shock. By then, the 2 clerics had left the stage, switched out for the 6 players of each team. End chapter. The King's Avatar, Chapter 1304 Challenger, audio source, WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1304, Challenger. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. No one was paying attention to the 6th player right now. Everyone was discussing Little Cold Hand's huge transformation. A full set of silver equipment. Even though they could not see the stats, to the players, the dazzling silver lettering could only be described as tyrannical. 1810 Intelligence. It was immediately obvious that this was the highest intelligence any cleric had in Glory. The entire Sea Ocean Stadium was buzzing with whispers. Was Happy's weak point, their healer and Wenyi, about to make a counterattack? The problem was that the main criticism towards Wenyi had been his skill. Everyone felt like if Happy could find a better healer, the team would instantly improve. However, Happy did not replace their healer and instead sharply upgraded his character. This method of fixing their weak point didn't seem logical. The crowd didn't care about all that though. As soon as they saw their own team's character suddenly burst onto the stage with flashing silver equipment, they instantly erupted with excitement. On the broadcast, Pan Lin and Li Yibo started to discuss this issue. Why was Happy willing to spend so much on strengthening their healer character instead of spending the money on a better healer player? Was there something special about Wenyi that made Happy willing to pile so many of their resources onto him? Pan Lin and Li Yibo looked at their information on Happy, but they just couldn't figure it out. The battle officially started, and the two characters loaded onto opposite corners of the map. The map was Labor Ming site, located at a Ming site at the foot of a mountain. The structure of the terrain was complex, and there was no part of the map spacious enough to fit all 10 players fighting at the same time. It was a map which required each team to move into a formation before advancing AEAD into the terrain. Happy moved swiftly as soon as the battle began and pressed forward, taking the middle route. Samsara pushed forward as well, but as they moved, their chat blossomed with liveliness. "Did you guys see Happy's cleric?" Jiang Botao and Lu Boyuan typed out simultaneously. "I saw," Fang Minghua replied. "What your thoughts?" Jiang Botao asked. When discussing a healer, Fang Minghua would obviously be the one with greater authority. High intelligence, high crit, his heals will be stronger. Happy is making up for Wenyi's weakness to a certain extent. Fang Minghua said. Samsara had analyzed Happy's weaknesses long ago. There was no need to re-emphasize this point. But aren't his stats a bit imbalanced? Jiang Botao said. It's a bit on the extreme side. His cast speed is too mediocre. He'll require more protection when he's healing. Fang Minghua said. So you're saying that his teammates will have to take up a greater burden? Jiang Botao pointed out the important part. Yes, Fang Minghua affirmed. It's indeed not bad adjustment. Jiang Botao said. How are we playing this? Sun Xiang asked. The huge change that Happy had made happened to be the main focus point of their prepared plans. I suggest no change, Fang Minghua said. Just treat it as a normal match and put pressure on the healer. Jiang Botao said. Happy's healer was their weak point, which became the focus of every team's strategy. But even without the healer being the weak point, targeting the healer was a very common strategy in the team competition. Samsara adjusted by treating this match as an ordinary one. They clearly had their misgivings towards suddenly upgrading Wenyi's equipment. Along with Pan Lin, Li Yibo, and many others thinking the same question, Samsara didn't think strengthening the character was a good solution. This method may have resolved the old issue, but it brought up a new one too. The rest of the team had to share the extra burden. That meant everyone else need to focus more of their attention towards protecting him. The hazard might have been reduced, but it had also become more spread out. What would happen if someone became distracted for a moment and failed to complete their task of protecting him? Therefore, focus the healer. Team Samsara's final decision for the core of their strategy had not changed. As for the specifics, those would change depending on the circumstances. They had to at least just how much the upgraded healer character impacted Happy. The two teams soon came across each other. They did not immediately fight. On this complicated map, the instant the two teams found one another, the two teams scattered to quickly occupy advantageous positions. The long-range classes searched for attacking spots, where they could better display their firepower. The close-range classes searched for routes, where they could better hide themselves while moving forward. As the main team, Happy had a smoother time on this point. They had been prepared and practiced long beforehand. Everyone quickly found a good spot for themselves. Su Muchung's dancing rain climbed to a rock jutting out of the mountainside and made the first attack in the team competition. Bang! A stinger arced in a curve as it flew through the air. It quickly dropped down, and with a bang, it exploded like fireworks. Countless missiles burst out. Boom, boom, boom. The stingers crashed to the ground and turned the area into a sea of fire. Sun Xiang and Liu Boyuan were depressed. These two close-range players had picked this ditch to close in on Happy, but as soon as the fight started, Su Mucheng sent a missile at them. One went left, and the other went right as they scurried out of the ditch. The two could only stare at Dancing Rain, who was on top of that rock with her hair fluttering in the wind. There was nothing they could do. They didn't have the range. Zhou Zekai looked to have moved sluggishly, but he had been waiting for Happy to fall into position to make the first move. After Dancing Rain attacked and exposed herself, Cloud Piercer, Samsara's longest-ranged character, immediately moved towards her. Only he had the range to keep Dancing Rain's support under control. But before Cloud Piercer could move into position, a gunshot landed beside him. Zhou Zekai could tell from the sound that it wasn't from Dancing Rain. The only other person who could fire a gun was Yishu's Lord Grim. Lord Grim had climbed over a ruined wall. The distance between him and Cloud Piercer was only 5 steps. Lord Grim could even combo his movement skills. What was 5 steps to him? Zhou Zekai also realized that Cloud Piercer hastily retreated. Lord Grim used his movement skills and rapidly rushed at him. Yishu, Zhou Zekai, the number 1 players of the old and new generation. A face-to-face confrontation had come. Who was better? Everyone was curious about this question. Zhou Zekai had debuted in Season 5. It was from that season onwards that Excellent Era never entered the finals again. But at that time, Yishu shined as brilliant as ever. The crown of number 1 player in glory belonged to him. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Who would have thought that Samsara, a mid-tier team, would find this quiet person who would one day become the great gunner and become the number 1 glory player of the new generation? When the Zhou Zekai of that era fought against Yishu, no one would have regarded it as a battle between number 1s, but rather a pretty good rookie versus a god. But soon, everyone started to realize that this Zhou Zekai wasn't as simple as pretty good. After Samsara took in this player, their fate instantly turned around. That season, Samsara made it to the playoffs, a breakthrough for them. However, because of the quiet personality of Zhou Zekai, he didn't synergize well with the rest of the team. In the end, the team was only able to make it to playoffs but nothing more. Samsara had a headache over this problem, but soon afterwards, they uncovered a new rookie in Season 6. At that time, Jiang Botao had been a part of Team Parade. After a careful observation, Samsara quickly confirmed that Jiang Botao was exactly what their team needed, a person to stand by Zhou Zekai. That winter season, Team Samsara impatiently purchased this rookie. After half a year of practice, Jiang Botao was able to become the link between Zhou Zekai and rest of the team, just like they had wanted. And in Season 7, Jiang Botao took up the position of vice-captain. At this point, the young players of Samsara had matured. The Season 7 Samsara had finally broken past the first round of the playoffs. Zhou Zekai's popularity was incomparable that season. In comparison, Excellent Era had started to go on the decline. The title of number 1 started to falter. Wang Gxi, Huang Shaoshan, Zhou Zekai. These names started being mentioned. Among them, Zhou Zekai was the youngest and his performance on stage was the most dominating. Everyone thought highly of his future. The only thing he was missing was a championship victory. Finally, in Season 8, Yishu retired midway. The former number 1 said goodbye to the stage, and someone needed to take up his banner. That season, Zhou Zekai and Team Samsara seized the championship cup. It seemed to be a declaration that he was the successor to the title. and in Season 9, Samsara won the championships for a second time. From then on, his title as number 1 was unshakable. But then, in Season 10, the former number 1, Yishu, returned. Who was the real number 1? The media definitely wasn't going to miss such a fiery topic. But Yishu was already at such an old age. Excellent era had started declining years ago, and now, he was leading a grassroots team. Wouldn't debating whether Josekai and Yishu was the current number 1 be seen as a joke? 10 years of glory, the former number 1 player had now unexpectedly become a challenger. And some even thought that he wasn't qualified. But Yishu's performance and Happy's performance showed otherwise. Yishu was undefeated in the individual competition. After Happy started coming together in round 9, their record had crushed Samsara's ever since. Yishu had earned the qualifications to take back his title as number 1. As a result, the media started working hard to utilize this as a topic. In round 1, everyone had been questioning Yishu's qualifications. Unfortunately, neither Yishu nor Josekai came across each other in the individual rounds. Finally, not long after the team competition began, the two had already started fighting. Lord Grimm rushed forward, while Cloud Piercer retreated backwards. Everyone seemed to have stopped breathing. Then, a formless chi suddenly struck Cloud Piercer from behind. Fuck. Countless curses exploded. We want to see a fight for number 1. Could a dirty bastard like you not fucking interrupt it? End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1305. A long-awaited scene. Audio source, wusharworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1305. A long-awaited scene. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Using a chi blade, Fang Rui's boundless sea interrupted the contention for number 1 between the two generations without any hesitation. The countless players and reporters, who were interested in it, immediately started cursing. Chi blade wasn't easy to notice even when facing it head-on. As a sneak attack, even the number 1 player wasn't able to notice it. However, this was a team competition. Josekai hadn't noticed it, but others had. The instant Jiang Botao gave the warning in the team chat, Josekai's Cloud Piercer dodged. One person's warning and another person's movements coordinated beautifully. But with this opening, how could Lord Grimm not seize it to close in onto Cloud Piercer? People realized that Yishu and Fang Rui were also coordinating with each other, and it had probably been planned beforehand. While everyone was overjoyed at seeing a fight between Yishu and Josekai, Yishu and Fang Rui conspired together and formed a pincer attack on Josekai. The contention for number 1 and a qualified challenger were truly exciting topics, but did the players on stage care? Just when these two formed a pincer attack onto Cloud Piercer, Samsara's Jiang Botao hurried over. The 1v1 that everyone had been hoping for didn't happen. The two had only just seen each other before everything turned into a mess. Lord Grimm was currently interrupting Jiang Botao's empty waves from casting a formation, while Cloud Piercer was blocking a dirty sneak attack from Fang Rui's boundless sea. The fight between the two sides had started all around, but Happy's more prepared utilization of the terrain gave them a certain advantage. Sumo Chung's dancing rain was a troublesome existence for Samsara, and the only one who could keep her in check was Cloud Piercer, who Fang Rui and Yishu had intercepted. Qiao Yifin's 1-inch ash rushed over to provide support, and Wen Yi's little cold hand stood beside him with his cross raised. The silver holy contract radiated with holy light as he chanted. This seemed to be his first time supporting his team in a direct conflict. And Wen Yi was a bit excited. Could he finally participate in a team battle outright in the open? Before this, the situation always need to be set up in a certain way before he could do anything, and Yi Xiu didn't hold back in telling him the reason. And Wen Yi was Happy's weakness. His technical skill was poor. Everyone in the glory scene knew that. Believing in one's own lies wasn't something a logical person like Wen Yi did. Yi Xiu also trusted in his personality and didn't feel the need to keep his skill level a secret. Cleanly pointing it out would help him grow faster. Reality was as such. And Wen Yi was always clear where his shortcomings were and always consciously worked on improving them. The only thing restricting him was probably his talent. His rate of improvement seemed to be very slow, and he couldn't help but worry about his future. However, Team Happy's actions wiped away this worry. And Wen Yi was extremely confident right now. He was certain he would definitely become qualified to be the lifeline supporting the team. He wouldn't be like before and sometimes become the bait for the team's tactics. Cast. Small heel. Even though Little Cold Hand's equipment didn't stack cast speed, Small Heel was a low-level skill, so the cast time was short anyways, and it was quickly cast. Holy Light flew out and converged onto Lord Grimm. Crit. The high crit rate didn't let him down. After a switch of equipment, the very first skill Little Cold Hands used had crit. The holy light surrounding Lord Grimm looked to be brighter than usual. His health immediately went up a notch. That feels so good. For a healer, nothing was more satisfying than watching a health bar go up. The others felt a thrill watching their attacks deal damage, but clerics felt a thrill watching their skills heal. The bigger the heal, the more satisfying it felt. And this was just a small heal, and not a huge one. And Wen Yi calmly observed the battlefield, waiting for a chance to use a high-level skill. When he had been adjusting to his new character, that sort of leap almost made his heart jump out. In real combat, in a fight, a leap in health meant a nullification of all the hard work the opponent had put in. This was the type of attack only healers could do, a spiritual blow to the opponents. Come. The always logical and Wen Yi couldn't hold back his excitement. He had been holding it back for too long. He had been waiting for this day, this moment for too long. Which side? And Wen Yi looked left and right, searching for an area that needed his support. One autumn leaf and chaotic cloudy mountains climbed out of the ditch and entered the fray. Samsara's healer Fang Minghua and his cleric Laughing Song looked to be in a position symmetrical to Little Cold Hands. He was also in position, waiting for a side that required his assistance. This was a battle between healers. How exhilarating! And when Yi saw Laughing Song across from him, the other side seemed to have noticed him too. The hot-bloodedness in his mind couldn't help but surge forth again. There. And Woony suddenly found an opportunity. However, that side didn't require any healing. If he placed a sacred fire there, would he be able to restrict one autumn leaf's mobility? This side too. Or maybe I should hypnotize empty waves. Would I be noticed though? Little Cold Hands had a slow casting speed. Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer could interrupt his cast with just a single bullet. Maybe I should cast a sacred fire first. And Wen Yi made up his mind, but Dragon breaks the ranks. One autumn leaf suddenly swept outwards with his spear. After finding an opening, he took a step and attacked Little Cold Hands with a Dragon breaks the ranks. The distance isn't enough. The first thing Wen Yi noticed was that Dragon breaks the ranks wouldn't be enough for one autumn leaf to fully close in onto him. But this surprise attack had still drastically increased the threat towards him. And Wen Yi didn't panic. Sacred Fire. He had originally planned on using this skill to decrease one autumn leaf's mobility, but one autumn leaf broke off from the fight first. The sacred fire was still sent towards him nonetheless. Under the light of holy contract, the pale flames slid out from it. One autumn leaf had only been 5 units away, so the sacred fire was bound to be within his path. The spell had been timed to the extreme. But the instant the pale flames leapt up and it looked as if one autumn leaf would step on them, one autumn leaf leaped into the air. Frightening reaction speed and extraordinary technical skill were all things in Wen Yi lacked, but at this moment, Sun Xiang displayed these traits beautifully. It was just an instant, but Sun Xiang was able to react in time. Dragon Breaks the Ranks was forcefully cancelled, but because he had jumped, the momentum carried him high into the air, shattering the lands. One autumn leaf's evil annihilation danced in the air. Under the gloomy backdrop, the flickering black light looked even crueler. And Wen Yi was still engrossed in what had just happened. How he envied Sun Xiang's reaction speed and technique. It was only an instant later, and one autumn leaf was coming down with a shattering the lands. And Wen Yi's reaction speed had always been his weakness. The attack itself was a large AoE move. Where could he dodge to? He had nowhere to dodge, and he had no attack that could stop shattering the lands. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash was close to Little Cold Hands, but he had no way of helping because this attack could not be blocked. Boom. Magic waves rippled and shook the earth. Qiao Yifan's 1-inch ash promptly jumped out of harm's way, but Little Cold Hands wasn't even able to take 3 steps before the spreading shockwave landed. No one could block the attack, but they could always rescue him after it. An X1 extruder launched from Dancing Rain's cannon towards Little Cold Hands. Anyone in its vicinity would be pulled away. This sort of protection was only temporary. Getting the healer to safety required constant defense. Starting from Sun Xiang's one autumn leaf breaking through, Samsara held the initiative because Happy need to maintain a certain distance from their target of protection. Ye Zhu and Fang Rui weren't able to continue fighting on the other side. They need to shrink their defensive zone to protect their healer. Random firing. Zhou Zekai seized this timing to fire a burst of attacks. Bullets shot out from his dual guns, and under his extraordinary control, nearly every bullet threatened Lord Grim a boundless sea. This wave of attack stopped the two from retreating, using a strong offense as a defense. Empty waves began casting a wave formation. Interrupt. Ye Zhu called out in the chat. This wave formation could not be allowed to be summoned. Lord Grim raised his Myriad Manifestations umbrella and used its shield form to block Cloud Pierce's attacks. Fang Rui's Boundless Sea went into the cover provided by the umbrella and let out an attack towards empty waves. Samsara's offensive had been repeatedly thwarted by Happy's players, but finally, Lu Boyuan found an opening to act. Chaotic Cloudy Mountains flipped his palms. Grapplers didn't have long-ranged attacks, and there was no one near him. However, the movements he made in Wen Yi's heart leap. This was the Chi Master skill, Cloud Grasping Fist. Chaotic Cloudy Mountains was a fighter class, so a skill of the same class could be added to his weapon. And in this match, he chose Cloud Grasping Fist. In order to target Happy's weak point, had this been an arrangement they had planned from the start. And Wen Yi wanted to dodge, but he immediately discovered that Sun Xiang had his eyes completely fixed on him. With Dancing Rain's X1 extruder flying over, one autumn leaf wasn't able to press closer for now, but if Little Cold Hands moved, he would be outside of X1 extruder's protection, and one autumn leaf would instantly start attacking. Samsara's teamwork put him in a helpless position. And Wen Yi felt despair. However, the moment Chaotic Cloudy Mountains sneak attacked with Cloud Grasping Fist, a character stood in front of him. Phantom Demon, 1-inch Ash, End Chapter.